another random chat with Dade and Jude. I'm Dade.
And I'm Jude.
And today we are talking about something that everyone has, but may not believe in it. Does that make sense?
Good opening.
Jude, what are we talking about today?
Today, Dade, we are going to talk about star signs.
Ooh, we do love a good star sign. I do personally.
Me too.
I do believe in them.
Me too.
We all, and as I say, we all have one, but it's whether you believe. Like when you say, when I say this, let's just maybe define it. When I think of people's star signs, I think of like different type of personality traits and who they are and how they act and things like that. Would you define it the same way?
Absolutely. And I do really live by it, actually, because I think from my own personal perspective, I am true to my star sign, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But I do think it's a nice guide for people as well when they're, looking at potential compatibility and partnerships and that kind of thing. I think that there are definitely, even though we're all as one group in the world, a populace of like essentially 12 divisions, right? The horoscope. I do think that traits and characteristics totally fall into those brackets. And I do think you can generalize to a point.
You can. But and the thing, I think sometimes it's like, years ago, I was like, do they? And it's like, well, no, I do actually have the very much, I'm a Gemini. I very much, I am the twins. I have the twins on my shoulder here to represent Gemini. And I feel I'm a very true Gemini. But before we jump into that, I want to just share this, because what I found, and which is always, I just like to just throw in some facts, is the star signs or astrological signs of the 12 30-degree sectors that make up Earth's 360-degree orbit around the sun. And the signs illuminate the first days of spring, known as the first point of Aries, which then starts the vortex, which then you have all the 12 star signs around.
Oh, so that's interesting. So even though Aries is later in, like around, like you said, springtime, and even though that's normally whenever you read your star signs, you always start with Capricorn because that's January. It actually starts with Aries.
Yeah, I know, you just learn things all the time.
Yes, you do.
What are you then? Go on, Jude.
Oh, I was going to say, do you know why it's called the zodiac?
I feel you're going to tell me.
I feel I am going to tell you a little bit of information for you. It's supposed to, I think the word zodiac means it's the representation of the belt around the sky, which contains all the 12 different constellations.
Yes.
So depending on when you're born,
yes,
and depending on when, now this is going to be out of my territory, the rotation of the Earth and the moon, and then where that constellation sits, that's where,
the zodiac is based on different signs of different star signs, and as you go through them, you have your constellations that do that.
And that's why it's not a calendar month, like the 1st to the 30th or the 1st to the 31st or whatever it may be, because they all kind of like break in depending on when you're born and where the world is tilting at that time.
Yeah, because it's always on like the 21st. I don't know why it's always on the 21st. Well, obviously you maybe just told me that, but I don't know why. Is it the 21 a number of significance?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm going back to your previous question, what star sign am I? I'm actually one of those star signs, and my birthday is on the cusp. So I'm actually on the cusp of 2 star signs. So my birthday is the 22nd of September. So I fall into the bracket of Virgo, but I'm just on the cusp of Libra.
Yeah, I can see that about you.
You can? Oh gosh.
Well, no, the balance part as well, Libra part, like also because Gemini and Libras get on very well as well.
Yes, they do indeed. My mum's a Gemini, actually, so that's why I knew that we would fall in love. And
I also loved your mum, like always.
I know. Awesome.
But then I like. So when you talk about you say you got both. Then which one do you lean more? Virgo.
Definitely Virgo. I'm a complete 100% Virgo, and that's why when you said about characteristics and traits and whether you believe in them or you don't, I 100% do, because I am down to a T a Virgo.
Yeah.
I probably will pull out the more negative aspects of the Virgo in my traits, but I do have the positive traits as well. But I am, things like being a perfectionist. I'm very sensitive. I really I really worry about how people perceive me and all of those kind of traits. So I am definitely like organized and quite meticulous, and that's definitely me to a T.
Would you maybe say efficient?
I am efficient, yes. When I get my head into something, I will make sure the job is done well. And if it's not done to the level of satisfaction that I pride myself on, then I'm not happy.
And that's it, because I've got the positive and negatives up here, and
Oh,
you're marking them up.
have you?
Yeah, so positive, efficient, industrious, calm, adaptive. Negative, never negative, they're always highly sensitive, which you said.
Yeah.
Overcritical.
Yes.
Materialistic.
I don't quite know what that means in this sense.
I know. Is it like you just want your possessions around you?
Because I really am not materialistic at all.
Yeah. Well, this
So
is
maybe
just obviously one. Somebody's put this together. They vary based on different things. We're not going to say this is the 100%, but it's just different kind of ways that people look at it, and you go, oh yeah, I can identify with that.
Definitely. And I think that's the point, isn't it? It's about how you identify. So would you say that you are a true Gemini?
Okay, let's have a look. So let's see whether you agree. Positive, curious.
Yep.
Skillful.
Yep.
Humorous.
Very.
Seductive.
Seductive.
Yes.
Well, I couldn't tell you that part. But I'm going to lean towards yes.
And imaginative, which is very true, because I have such a great imagination, very creative. Negative, sometimes impractical. Yeah, I can understand that. Restless, yeah.
Yes.
Nervous.
Only when standing up and having to do big presentations
Yeah.
in front of an audience of people.
Or when the bar's closed or something, and careless. Yeah, look, I agree with something. That's the thing. It's just they all have those up here, which I just think is an interesting kind of thing. And that's the thing. I know there's different personality types in my family, right? So I know my sister's Cancer, and I know that she has. I know what her things are. My mum's a Capricorn, and
Okay.
so I kind of understand their star signs, which I think is good to understand the nature of the person, right?
Absolutely. It goes back to what I said before. I think it's just a guide, isn't it? If you do believe in it and you are aware of these particular characteristics in these star signs, then you kind of know what to expect. Like with fire, you know, we haven't talked about the elements yet. We'll get onto that. But with the fire signs, you know, there is going to be an element of like fieriness and, you know, some of those kind of adjectives. So I just think that, yeah, it does help you identify. And then when you drill down even further, you know, when you're talking about friendships and compatibility and common interests, these kind of things really do mold quite nicely together when you know who you can work well with easily, rather than those that you're going to struggle more with because of those kind of characteristics.
Obviously, you're married, but before you obviously said lovely husband, hi. Was that a factor in like picking someone in the sense of their star sign?
No, it wasn't a factor for me, but it was one of the very first few questions that I would ask.
Oh, same.
Because I was curious. And as it turns out, he is the most compatible star sign for me.
Oh, which is what?
Pisces.
Ah, okay. Is Virgo air? Or no, Earth.
No, Earth.
Earth, yeah.
Grounded,
yeah, water. Yeah, it makes sense.
Because the symbol, I believe, represents the it's agriculture. It's all to do with grounded, and it's the wheat and the Virgin sign.
Oh.
That's what the symbol of the Virgo star sign is. So it's got like agricultural roots and wheat roots, harvesting roots. I guess it's also an autumn star sign, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's probably got some connection to that too.
Yeah, I'm not one of these people who would be like, oh, I don't like. If I chat to somebody, I'm like, or going on a date with somebody, and they were like, "Oh, I'm this," and I'm like, I wouldn't be like, "Oh no, this won't work." So I do think everything can work, because I think it's just understanding that kind of the characteristics of them.
Yeah, but then if they're gonna clash, and it's just
obviously
it's gonna be hard.
You'd get that straight up. I'm just always just like, I don't rule. If somebody was like, "Hey, I'm a Capricorn," I'm just not going to go no straight away.
Not. Yeah. No, okay. I guess I've been watching too much of Love at First Sight.
Is that what they do? I don't watch Love at First Sight.
They talk behind a wall, don't they? And they're not allowed to see each other, so everything goes off of conversation. and whether they are connected without seeing any physical attributes of the person on the other side of the wall.
Yeah.
But one of the big questions that they always talk about is what star sign, and that kind of, you can see their brains ticking over because they're thinking, oh God, I had a bad experience with that Aquarius or whatever. And so therefore it's just an interesting concept, whether it's a deal breaker for some or not.
Yeah, true. But I do think, like, obviously there's 12 star signs, and there's doing all the permutations of that, you're going to have different variations within that. So, like, I should have been born 10 days earlier, so it should have made me a Taurian.
So that's interesting. That's a really interesting point. Would you have had the same character because it's the same DNA? Would you have been tweaked slightly? That's an interesting idea.
Okay, so if I read the characteristics of Taurus, right?
Okay.
Practical, resourceful,
Very.
confident, energetic, and tidy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's all on point. Tick, 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 tick.
Maybe because Gemini's twins, maybe one twin is still Taurian, and I'm the Gemini side.
That's so interesting.
Isn't it?
It is interesting. I love it.
And then when I look at the negative, stubborn can be, unforgiving can be, excessive can be.
Can't we all, honey?
Yeah. But actually just reading it like that, maybe I am, because I've always said I am part Taurian. Because I just can't believe, because of the when I should have been born. If I think around when I should have been born, and the date of that's when I kind of think I had taken on you've obviously explored that then previously, knowing that your due date came earlier than it should have done. You've obviously gone ahead and gone, well, let me just see what the characteristics of a Taurus are, to then see how, I just want to be a Gemini, far more fun.
Yeah, I need to find out what my due date was now, see whether it was forward or whether it was more Libran.
Do you have I know certain groups of my friends, I gravitate to more like Sagittarians. I've got so many Sagittarian friends. Like I know I'm compatible more with Aries and Taurians as well, and I have a lot of Aries friends.
Well, my closest friend, my longest friend from that I went to school with and grew up with, she's actually a Pisces. She's only a few days after my husband, so that's an interesting point. But no, I think across the board we're all kind of, there's a real kind of mix there. But I am drawn to Geminis.
Yeah. See,
so that's interesting.
Yeah. Do you know any of the other ones? Your rising or your moon?
I don't know my rising, no, because I have a rough idea of my sorry. I have a rough idea of my time of birth, but not specifically. So I don't actually know that. And I know that, don't you have to put that into a chart of some description as well?
Yeah, I did it earlier today on this. My rising is Cancer, which I get because it's intelligent, crafty, rational, strong-willed. Yeah, basically. Yeah. And also the other part, because I have an ascending Cancer, caring about other people is a big part of how you show up and who you are.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's very much you. You always show up for people. You're very, very loyal.
And then my moon sign is Aquarius, that actually surprised me. Because I thought I was a Capricorn, but I'm not. It's an Aquarius. Generous, trustworthy, and independent and logical.
So can you dig into that a little bit more and tell me how that is different to your star sign, your rising, moon, and sun?
The rising one I mostly have to look up quickly, but the moon is based on where the moon was on your birth.
Oh, I see. So because that's where you were at. So I guess it would be the opposite for the sun, right? It's where the sun was at your birth. So, and then is that just another layer of understanding?
It's another layer. Yeah. Okay. There's about 6 that I see people post, and I'm like, it's just interesting to see that there are different sides of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because it's funny that we've gone this way, because another thing that I was doing when I was looking into this topic a little bit today was, you've got your star signs, your horoscopes. Then you've also got then you're bucketed into the 4 elements as well. So out of the 12 star signs, there's going to be 3 in each of earth, air, fire, and water, which we spoke about. Then we've talked about the rising moon, the rising sun. And then I went on into a bit of a tangent, because then I started thinking of, well, is this like a universal global, situation whereby everybody follows this same pattern, or are there different calendars that are used? Because then I started going down, well, what's the Chinese calendar about? And they have the year of the dragon or the year of the snake. And I was getting more and more curious about how all of these kind of things interlope, and do they all kind of come with the same output, or is there different meanings behind different things? And then I fell into numerology. So I was like, wow, there's like a whole host of really interesting things that, for those that may not have a spiritual faith as such, this may be like a guide for them, like an understanding of, like, you know, pathways for them to be able to nurture and grow and you know, thrive in whatever it is that they want to do and achieve.
Yeah, but that's when going back to like even like the Chinese the year of the whatever year you were born. I think I'm the year of the horse or something like that. But how they then lay, because based on that, they'll talk about how your year will look ahead and all things like that. But it reminded me of like horoscopes.
Right.
Do you buy into, like, do you read your horoscope?
I used to all the time. In fact, do you remember Mystic Meg in The Sun?
That's who I was thinking about when I spoke.
Mystic Meg. Yeah, Mystic Meg. I used to live and breathe Mystic Meg. I don't know why, because The Sun is, for anybody that doesn't know, it's a tabloid newspaper that is basically, you know, if you believe what The Sun says is a saying, if you believe it when you've read it. So to believe the horoscopes and live and breathe by them was kind of a crazy thing, but I did it.
Yeah, I used to read them a lot more religiously. Sometimes I do, sometimes it's always weird when I go through like a weird time, I look more at them. It's like, is the stars talking to me?
Yes, I know. But then you'd be looking out for that kind of, and somebody with an initial D is going to walk into your life today around 3. I'd be like, oh my God, at 3 o'clock, I'd be like, somebody with the initial D is going to be looking around for me.
and it's the dog.
Right. Or the dustman. That's funny. But yeah, no, I definitely was all into it. In fact, I got so into it at one point, I signed up for one of those subscriptions, those magazine subscriptions that gave you all the tarot cards, and learned how to be a tarot reader. And I think that's kind of where my love and interest really came with all of this, because I am quite a spiritual person, and I definitely relate to my horoscope. So I really do have a belief that it does have an impact on my day to day and how people perceive.
What traits then, going back to the traits of your star sign, do you feel are very true that obviously we haven't covered yet, but you do feel is part of you?
I'm definitely a perfectionist. I definitely have high expectations, and I think I can, if somebody doesn't meet those expectations, typically in relationships, then I can get wounded quite easily. But actually, the flip side of that is that those people can't always understand the way that I'm thinking and the way that I need everything to be so kind of particular and perfect. And it's not like I'm talking about like making sure that the kitchen is, you know, cleaned daily, or it's just delivering things in a certain way that makes me feel accomplished at the end of that day. So if something hasn't quite gone according to my plan, then it will deeply affect me, whereas most people would just brush it off. So if somebody doesn't understand that about me, they won't receive it very well, and I'll get annoyed that they don't understand it. But why would they when they don't have those expectations?
Right, because I was thinking this, like one of mine is patience, and I just think that's a very I don't know any Geminis that don't have patience and kindness. I don't know if I'll come back to something, but yeah, I think. But also the other part of that is, I mean, I'd always expect people to know that, but people don't know that. Like that's not their stuff.
No, exactly. And then if you're then dealing with a star sign that is very laid back and like doesn't even like, you know, even consider these kind of things to be things, you know, they're just not even gonna have any clue what you're going on about and just think you're weird.
Right. I do know that like I'm more compatible with Aries, Taurians, Libras. And I think there was another one. Maybe it was Aquarius. Yeah, but I do start when I hear that when I'm chatting to somebody and they go, "I'm an Aquarius, I'm an Aries." I'm like, "Hello."
So you do, yeah. So you respond because
I respond in the sense of the ones that I am more compatible, but I still would say if somebody went, "I'm a Leo," I'm like, "Great, cool." Yeah, I do know the characteristics of when people say that as well, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
It's been weird. Go on.
No, you go.
Hang on, I think I just lost my thread.
I'm sorry.
That's right. That's okay. Editing helps.
Yes, absolutely.
No, lost it.
Okay. Well, one thing I was going to share with you is that throughout all of this, I have always been really fascinated, and I'm going a little bit off track, but bear with me. I've always been really fascinated in the last book by Nostradamus.
Okay.
And one of the things that, because obviously he was a big astrologer, as well as many other things, you know, back in the 1500s, and he had lots of prophecies about things that were happening at the time and even to the present day and into the future. And you know, I've always been really interested in that because, you know, you can argue that the star signs is where science meets nature, right? Because in certain religious aspects, you know, it was witchcraft, wasn't it, to believe in star signs or any of that kind of thing. It wasn't a religious aspect. So, you know, then this guy came along and he was actually taken in by, I think it was King Henry II. And that's quite a big move, right? Because there's this guy is going against the grain of the church, and they're actually being welcomed in by a king to talk about things that could benefit him and his reign or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, the fact that this guy was making these prophecies about things that, you know, arguably have come true, that just blows my mind. And that was all done by him doing what exactly, you know, with the astrology, with the star signs, with understanding planets and moons and things. Like, I find it fascinating because a lot of people do lean on that. A lot of people are reviewing it, you know, currently at the moment. There's a news story at the moment about Kate Middleton.
Okay.
And Prince, the Prince and Princess of Wales with Prince William. There's apparently Nostradamus predicted that our current King Charles III will actually abdicate and will be giving the throne to William, making him
right. Especially if that comes true.
Right, so watch this space, listeners and viewers, because if this is true, we've just made a huge news story.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll mark the date today, and
yes,
if it happens,
you saw it here first.
We saw it here first. We got the exclusive.
Isn't it interesting? I mean, how does it happen?
Exactly. But it's a very interesting thing. If you do want to look up more what I can't even say it, Nostradamus.
Yes.
Thank you. Has predicted, go and Google and search. And also, if you have, what's your star sign? Do you feel that your star signs reflect you, viewers, listeners? Like, put in the comments, let us know, because I do think it's an interesting conversation, because as I say, we all have them, but do you believe in them?
Yeah, we'd like to know more, please.
We'd like to know more. And on that note, I'm going to say this has been another random chat with Dade and Jude, and I'm Dade.
And I'm Jude.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.